Today, I'm going to talk about intentional role modeling. There's 3 key ideas I'll talk about. First, social learning theory, which provides the theoretical foundation for intentional role modeling. Then, hidden curriculum, which is a side effect of social learning. And intentional role modeling as a way to teach adults in a performance context, such as clinical medicine. Social learning theory was developed by Bandura in the 1970s as he saw that not all learning could be described by behaviorist learning theory. Recall Bandura's famous Bobo doll experiments. The 3 key concepts of social learning are 1. That people can learn through observation. 2. That internal mental states are an important part of the learning process. And 3. Just because it's been learned doesn't mean that it will result in behavior change. What is needed for successful observational learning? Social learning theory outlines 4 steps. Attention. First, the learner pays attention to the behavior being modeled. Retention. Second, the learner stores the information in a way they can recall in the future. Reproduction. Third, the learner recalls the information and enacts the behavior that was modeled. And motivation. Fourth, the learner is motivated to reproduce the behavior in the future. An example of observational learning. Step 1. A learner watches their boss at a corporate coffee station. The boss makes a coffee and puts some coins into the jar. Step 2. The learner makes a mental note that coffee costs 25 cents and that they should put a quarter in the jar after they pour themselves a cup of coffee. Step 3. The learner brings a quarter to the coffee station, pours themselves a cup of coffee, and puts the quarter into the jar. And step 4. The coffee tastes great and the learner wants to make sure that it's always available, so they associate the good coffee with paying the quarter. Hidden curriculum. All behaviors can be observed. Unfortunately, this means that not only intentional behaviors are learned, but unintended behaviors can be learned. The hidden curriculum refers to the unintended learning that can happen due to observation. For example, if the employee observes that their boss only pays for their cup of coffee half the time at the self-serve coffee station, the employee may learn that payment is not always required. This leads to the behavior of the employee only occasionally paying for their cup of coffee. This is an example of the boss modeling a behavior that results in an unintended, learned behavior in the employee. Intentional role modeling is a teaching technique that makes the implicit explicit. It's based upon Bandura's social learning theory. The first step is to cue the learner. This helps the learner know what to pay attention to. We learn through observation, but every learner sees the experience differently. Cueing helps the learner see the parts of the observation that the instructor wants the learner to see. This aligns with attention aspect of social learning theory. The second step is to model the behavior. Now that the learner knows what to be watching for, the teacher models the behavior in a real-world context. The final step is the debrief. Here is where you ask the learner what they observed. It allows the instructor to correct any misconceptions and also helps reinforce the learning. For example, before going to the coffee station, the manager explains that coffee costs 25 cents and payment is made on the honor system by putting a quarter in the jar every time you get a cup of coffee. The manager and employee go to the coffee station together, and the manager demonstrates getting a cup of coffee and putting a quarter in the jar. The manager checks with the employee to ensure that they understand that payment is required every time. The employee has an opportunity to ask questions like, what happens if they don't have exact change?